Hi, I'm Yogi, and recently I've been feeling gaslit. About what, you ask? Well, it's about Hitman Reborn being an action shonen, and specifically it being planned from the beginning. I don't understand why all of a sudden there's this, it was the original planned thing, when as far as I know, everyone had agreed that the reason why it became an action shonen was because of low sales. Now all of a sudden, that's not true. I mean, sure, we were never given a confirmed reason for it, but no new information came out disproving our theory either. I thought it made sense, but apparently some people think otherwise. And why is that? What is the reason for this, right? What is making me feel so gaslit, right? What started all this?
Because of him. Me.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I blame Red because he made a tweet followed by a YouTube short on this topic. So if you couldn't tell, I don't agree with this take. And this video is basically going to go over the theory that we had. I'm going to explain that for those who don't know it, I guess. But we're going to do that. We're going to go over the YouTube short and the tweet Red made, followed by a kind of speed round with some other tweets, specifically replies to Red's tweet. So let's get started. Disclaimer, none of this is a personal attack on Red or any of the other people. Just don't take any of this personally. Now, for those who don't fully know the story, Hitman Reborn, which was created by Akira Amano, started as a slice-of-life comedy gag manga, right? Basically meaning it was mostly a comedy series, right? Where things aren't too serious. There were other series like this, like Dr. Slump, Psyche K, and in the beginning of Dragon Ball even too, you know? Oh, and also Gintama, which it's an interesting case because it's kind of like, you know, it is like a gag thing, but it also kind of gets serious too, but I feel like it kind of classifies as one since it keeps going back to being a gag series often. Now, with Hitman Reborn, it was like any other gag manga, right? It had a lot of jokes. It had its gimmick of Suna losing all of his clothes, you know, with the dying will bullet, and the introduction of very wacky characters, right? And then chapter 62 happened. This chapter even starts in a different tone than all the other chapters that came before it do. While there were some other chapters that had some quote unquote dark themes, it was never actually portrayed as like dark, you know, or that serious because it was a gag manga. And all of it just kind of ended as a joke and everything was fine, right? But this chapter had Ryohei losing teeth, a lingering feeling of something big was going on, and even Hibari had the whole disciplinary committee on alert and was ready to fight people himself. The chapter even ends with a shot of a bloody Hibari after beating up a lot of people. This was the start of Hitman Reborn becoming an action show. In the anime, it was episode 20. Some people like to say like, oh, episode 30 something, or the start of the Varia arc, which I never agree with because the Kokuya land was definitely the start of it due to the change of tone and how the battles were bigger and much more high stakes, you know. Anyway, that's what happened. Now, I'm sure when the switch happened, I'm sure a lot of people were confused or surprised about this change in tone. And to this day, we don't 100% know why the genres changed. However, there was a theory for why this happened. That being, Hitman Reborn was dropping in sales and Akira Amano decided to turn it into a battle shonen so that the sales would go back up. Makes sense, right? Anime and manga fans probably know about the magazine Shonen Jump, right? And what they do to manga that don't bring in enough sales. They get canceled, or as we like to call it, axed. And it sucks, right? So many good series were just cut off just because, oh, not enough people were reading them, I guess. So of course, when a creator's series is going down in sales, they wouldn't want it to end. So moving from one not too popular genre to a very popular genre to get more sales makes sense, right? Well, apparently, not anymore. So now let's get into Red's given reasons, starting with the first tweet he made on it. In this tweet, he says, Akira Amano took, I assume he meant, took the two most popular genre at the time, being slice of life and battle shonen, and basically created Hitman Reborn. Now, excuse me, if you would, for not believing specifically slice of life being one of the two most popular genres at the time. I just find it hard to believe that slice of life would be a popular genre at any time, unless you want to count the possible hundreds of series that put slice of life as like there's 6 genres of manga, then all right, sure, maybe. However, I did want to, check and see if it was true. And it was very hard, oddly enough, because for some reason, no one kept a record of the most popular genres of 2004 manga. So I just did the next best thing and I just looked up Shonen Jump in 2004 and looked up what was serialized during this year. Because if this genre was so popular, surely a lot of manga during and around this time, around the year 2004, would be slice of life. And what did I find? Exactly what I expected. Almost nothing. There was one slice of life series, specifically, like slice of life was like the first 1 or 2 things mentioned about the series, right? There was one, but that ended with a single volume. So that was a little over a month. And then there was another one that I couldn't find the genres of. So even if I'm being generous and say that was the slice of life series, that's really just 2. And neither of those lasted even the whole year. So I wouldn't say that, yeah, slice of life was most popular, especially not the top 2. So that was this tweet that started it, right? And then he made a short on it. And we're going to go into this, but let me just say something first. And this has to do with what he says at the beginning of the short, where he says this.
For starters, there were so many signs that this was going to be a battle shonen.
Let's start here for a second, right? Basically, he's just saying that there was a lot of foreshadowing for the switch to happen, right? However, I would like to talk about foreshadowing because this is important, because this is basically the crux of like all the evidence he gives. Foreshadowing is just a tool used in literature and just media in general to hint at future events in their story. But that's not the creator's plan. So let me explain this a little more. Foreshadowing happens by writing a story's beginning based on the ending that's already planned out. But sometimes, and what I believe is the case with Hitman Reborn, a creator will write the ending based on the beginning that's already happened. And I hope that doesn't come off as too confusing. But basically what I'm saying is Akira Amano based multiple things that happened when the series became a battle shonen on things that happened when it was a slice of life. Meaning that she wasn't foreshadowing anything serious when making the daily life arc. But when she decided to turn the series into a battle shonen, she took things she made from it. So to us viewers who are watching it from an outside perspective, it comes off as foreshadowing, even though it wasn't the original plan. Like I even made a video as like a joke about how she foreshadowed Natsu. And basically the joke was like, in this one episode, Suna was at the zoo and Reborn said, oh, I sent you here so we can find you an animal partner, right? And as a joke, they put like an unconscious lion over him. And then I made a cut to the future arc when Suna opens his box weapon where he gets basically his animal partner, and it's a lion cub. Now, yeah, I was like, oh, she foreshadowed it, right? But like, that wasn't taken seriously. I think when she got to the feature arc and was thinking, what animal should his partner be? I think maybe she saw this episode or looked back and said, yeah, I can just make it a lion because of that. But yeah, anyway, for the rest of this short, I just want you guys to know that my main rebuttal for like the evidence he will give is basically that I don't think this was foreshadowing. It's just her going back. But, you know, I will be adding more on top of it. So let's get into his evidence. Number 1.
There's Lambo's 10-year bazooka, foreshadowing the obvious future arc.
Personally, I feel like the only purposeful foreshadowing was during the Varya arc, which was when it was a battle shonen, because that was when a 15-year-old Lambo talked about the whole parallel worlds thing, you know. And then later, when we saw 25-year-old Lambo saying how he hasn't seen Suna and his friends' faces in a long time, and he's like, oh, I might even cry. That was foreshadowing, but I don't think anything before that was. During the daily life arc, the bazooka was just one of Lambo's gag jokes. Yeah, it was a cool weapon. I mean, it wasn't really a weapon, but you know, it was cool. And it definitely caused a lot of questions on how someone even made it. But at the end of the day, it was just a tool to make us see how Lambo gets when he's older, how he's changed and how he hasn't really changed because he's still a crybaby. And later, we also use it as a joke for Ethan too. And let's not forget where you can only switch places with your future self for 5 minutes. And the only time that rule changed was when Lambo broke it. His 15-year-old body came back, but had the mind of his 5-year-old self. And even though he was out longer than 5 minutes, he was eventually switched back and the bazooka was fixed. I don't know. Maybe if there was like a little more foreshadowing on it with like, oh, you hear 2 mafia families was made in alliance, then maybe. Reason number 2.
Vongala family being introduced very early in the series.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of the main thing for the series though. You didn't say as much, you know, so I don't really think that counts as evidence because obviously we're going to learn more about them. We were being introduced to other members and allies of the family too, so I don't think there's much to say about this one. It's just, yeah, I don't think it really counts. Or at the very least, it's just not good evidence. 3.
There's also Dying Will Mode, foreshadowing the power systems.
Dying Will Mode was Suna's gag and main joke. It was never really taken seriously or even hinted at being something that could like become really much bigger than what it already was, you know? It was a transformation kind that just made all his clothes except his underwear rip, and he was considered a pervert because of it, right? There was never any serious tone used when Suna got shot by Reborn. We all knew it was just gonna be, oh, Reborn, you know, and then running around in underwear. Well, to be fair, in the manga, there was a character named Nato Longchamp, the legend that he was. And he had his own kind of Dying Will mode. It wasn't even really called that, and all it did was make him become depressed for a couple minutes, you know, with a little depressed guy coming out of his forehead. That's probably like the best evidence you'll get to there being a bigger power system, even though that thing was never even in the anime, and Nato didn't even stay in the manga that long, you know. After the daily life arc, he just never showed up again. Well, no, I take that back. He did show up. He showed up at the end of the Inheritance arc, you know, kind of like a little cameo. Like, hey! And to give some more evidence for why it wasn't foreshadowing, let's look at the chapter where Ryohei was introduced. Ryohei challenges Suna to a fight, and Reborn shoots Ryohei, to which he gets up, but with a sky dying will flame on his head, right? Not sun flame, but sky flame. Another chapter where something similar happens is the chapter where Suna has Kyoko at his house and Reborn suggests they play Russian roulette, but shows like a fake bullet that'll be used. Unfortunately for Kyoko though, who goes first, she actually gets shot with an actual dying will bullet. So of course, her clothes, except for her bra and panties, get ripped off, and she comes back to life with a sky flame on her head. Now, while we don't have a confirmed flame for Kyoko, right? I mean, there's a card game, but I'm pretty sure she has like 2 different flames in that. And I mean, I guess she could have both, but that's not really full confirmation, right? I believe both of these help prove that there was no plan for other flames being made, since it was the exact same flame used both times. And I think it's very safe to say that she definitely didn't have the earth flames in mind either. That definitely did not come to mind yet. Reason number 3.
Cursed babies like Reborn, foreshadowing the final arc of the manga.
This is the best argument given so far. We do meet Colonello and Skull during the daily life arc in the manga, and it is mentioned that they are a part of the Arc of Baleno. And while Reborn says that Colonello is someone who was born and grew up in the same place as him, we never get anything for Skull other than him being Reborn's lackey. So you could say that's foreshadowing the Curse of the Rainbow arc, but it's also really just plain foreshadowing of us meeting the other 4 Arc of Baleno members, right? For all we know, Akira Amano was just going to let us meet the other members and reveal the reason why they were babies was because they found a fountain of youth or something to keep it as a joke, right? I mean, there was even a joke where Reborn says that Dr. Shamal was the doctor who helped deliver him when he was born. So I don't know. I feel like Akira Amano probably would have just had some joke. But again, best evidence. So I will give you a point for that, you know. I think that's one you could definitely have an argument for. Reason 4.
There's also reoccurring characters in the first arc appearing later on in the series arcs.
Well, yeah. Characters are gonna come back, especially if it's someone connected to the main character or the theme of the story. Like Dino, whose picture you used for this point, is the boss of a family who are allies to the Vongala. And we know Dino was Reborn's student. I mean, this isn't really a good argument to me either. I mean, I think I understand what you're saying, but I feel like you missed out on the biggest example that would have really helped your point here. That being Shoichi Iri or Iri. Shoichi, unlike in the anime, is introduced very early in the manga, and his story revolves around him returning Limbo back home and trying to give Suna and Co. a supply crate given to him by the Bovino family. Long story short, he doesn't return the crate, and he gets traumatized by seeing Suna's crazy life. But the chapter ends with Shoichi having a nightmare about his day, and the narrator says how he believes his nightmares will never end until he delivers the crate. Now that's good evidence for it all being planned, because Shoichi shows back up during the feature arc and even tells us what happened to him after he got the crate. So that would have been better evidence. I think it's better than Dino, even though I guess you didn't say it, but still. He ends the short with saying how Akira Amano took action and comedy, being the most popular genres at the time, and putting them together to make the show. And quite honestly, that's better than saying slice of life is one of the most popular genres. But with that, that was the end of Red's short. So let's go into the little speed round of some of the comments left on Red's Twitter post about this short and his other tweet. At least I hope it's a speed round. I don't know. I got 4 more pages left. First, we have a quote tweet from Yugen. How the F people believe this crap? We literally got foreshadowing with future arc and inheritance arc since the gosh dang daily life arc. A whole power system that was introduced in Varia and future arc ain't gonna write themselves. Reborn, the Arc of Baleno, the Vindus. Hello. Wow. First of all, hi, hello. Second of all, if by foreshadowing for the inheritance ceremony arc, you mean Reborn saying how he's there to train Suna to become the 10th Mongol boss, then yeah, I guess so. But the inheritance arc wasn't really about that. So I don't think that really works. Saying the future arc was foreshadowed is more believable, but even still, I think it's a bit of a stretch, as I discussed why earlier. Next, let me start with saying that the Varia arc happens when the show is already a shonen battle manga, so it really shouldn't be brought up, but still, the power system that was introduced in the Varia arc was what exactly? I mean, yeah, but still was introduced, and he had a blue dying will flame, but it was never really talked about why that was. And Zonxus had the flames of wrath, and that wasn't really explained either, besides it being like the flames that the second Vongala boss used, and its distinct properties, I guess. And I guess there was the scene with Mammon where he had all 7 rings and like multiple flames were coming out of him, which is, now that I think about it, very weird, because Mammon should have probably only had mist flames, unless he somehow has all the wave energies in his body or something. But again, that wasn't really explained at all there. So if anything, that's more of just a plot hole. We were introduced to the rings in that arc too, but again, it wasn't said that, oh, there was a special wave energy and people in the rings were a way to unleash that energy, you know? I don't know what you mean by the arcs aren't going to write themselves. I guess that's true. Again, Reborn in the Arc of Baleno can be a good point, but it's not the best. And then the Vindus? Like, first of all, they showed up for less than a minute at the end of the Kokuyo Land arc, and they were never really brought up again, besides Mukuro's attempted prison escape in the Varya arc. And then they showed up at the end of the Future arc, where some Milifor families go to get Ghost out of jail, you know, but again, all that's already in the Battle Shonen part, right? Maybe she was planning it. I don't know. There wasn't really enough with them to say that, like, this is actual foreshadowing. It's more just reminding us that the really creepy mafia police are still a thing, you know? So thank you for your very aggressive and very confusing tweet, I guess. Now, the second and last tweet, or maybe it's multiple because they did reply again, but we're going to look at it by Rise, or Reese, I'm not sure. Wasn't it obvious? Well, duh, of course it was obvious. What sane person reading the manga wouldn't see how obvious it is? I mean, no one, that's who. Only people with low reading comprehension would. Okay, but seriously, do you really think it was obvious? Like, do you really think this was a steady progression and felt like the tone switch was normal? Because I don't, right? I mean, yeah, Daily Life arc arguably has some dark themes in it, right? But it doesn't come off that way because at the end of the day, it was all for jokes. This is my favorite Daily Life chapter, right? Where Suna wakes up thinking that, like, he just killed a guy, right? And he, like, wasn't even, like, conscious that he even did it. It's a funny chapter. I actually do think it was really good, you know? But, like, the tone of the chapter is, you know, jolly because it's being played for jokes successfully, I might add. It was very funny, and I really do love this chapter and episode. It makes me laugh every single time. But I wouldn't say there's no steady progression of seriousness in the Daily Life arc, right? It's kind of just whatever Akira Amano wanted to write about, you know? I mean, at the beginning of the series, right, there is a chapter where Yamamoto's introduced, right? You know, the chapter ends with him almost just throwing himself off the school building, right? You know, so that was a chapter that got dark for a while. But again, that's at the beginning of the series, right? And there was definitely not a steady progression, you know, or things getting darker, you know? Because, like, how did the rest of the almost 60 chapters progress? Oh, well, there's the dead body chapter I mentioned. Then there was the 5-year-old with several deadly weapons and a time-traveling bazooka. Then there was the other 5-year-old who was an assassin using smell to control people's bodies. The chapter of Suna and friends going to the beach and participating in a swim race against seniors, I think they were, who were cheating, you know, there was that one. There was Suna and Nato going bowling, you know, and Nato brought his girlfriend or girlfriends there. Then there was the kid, you know, who had the ability to rank things, you know, by speaking to a different planet, you know, and being chased by another mafia family. Then there was a chapter where 3 thugs tried to steal from Nana, unsuccessfully, of course. And of course, who can forget the chapter where Bianchi, an assassin who uses poisoned cooking, was getting married to Reborn, the baby hitman, or at least, you know, what she thought was Reborn at the time. Yeah, the build up to a battle shonen was very obvious, as you can tell. It was clearly going that way. Like think about it, right? And I mean, really think about this for a second, right? Just close your eyes. Imagine you're reading a book or watching a show that's a rom-com, right? The 2 main characters start off kind of cold to each other, right? But eventually they warm up and soon even become friends. It's a bit of a slow burn, but progress is being made, right? All's well. Now, after 60 chapters or maybe even 19 episodes if you're watching the show, right? You go to watch or read and see what happens next. And all of a sudden, the story is now a space sci-fi story. That's right, the characters start getting ready for space and finding new life up there. But the romance is basically gone now. It might show up, right, for about a page every couple chapters or a couple episodes after like 20 sci-fi episodes first, but it's mostly gone. Are you telling me that you would think to yourself, this is definitely what the series was building towards? I mean, there was so much stuff hinting at this. That's not a natural progression. Like, it's just not. Earlier, I talked about how you could feel how different the tone was for chapter 62 compared to all the previous chapters, right? And it continued to have that tone for the rest of the arc. If the build up to that arc was natural, then it wouldn't have felt so jarring and people would not have felt so surprised by this change, right? But that's not what we got, you know? You cannot make a story, have it be a certain way for a long amount of time, basically establishing to your audience that, like, this is what the manga is, this is what it's, like, trying to be, and then suddenly just changing it and expecting them to be like, oh yeah, this was natural, you know? It's not a natural thing to switch genres, especially if it's like a big jump in between the genres, you know? Right. And then finally, there was the last one too, where they basically say how they think the theory that the switch was caused by bad sales was kind of stupid. And to that, I asked this, right? Do you remember how this series ended? Specifically the manga, right? Isn't this another thing that we all agreed on, was that the ending felt rushed, that Akira Amano wanted to continue writing it and had more things planned for it, that the story was being canceled by Shonen Jump, that she got axed at the end of the series? Who knows? Maybe I'll be gaslit on this next, right? Maybe this is just a lie. You know, maybe everyone's gonna start coming out. Oh, it didn't get axed. She wanted to end it now. But if we all believe that Hitman Reborn was canceled at the end due to, once again, sales going down, why do you think her changing genres of the story is dumb? I mean, we literally see the company basically force her to stop making any more chapters due to low sales. But for some reason, to you, the theory that someone would change the genre of their story to one that is significantly more popular to avoid that bad fate is dumb. Like, does that not seem weird to you? Or to anyone? Anyway, to bring this video to a close, let me bring up one more thing. Red replies to Reeves that he hopes that no one believes the theory, or in his words, myth of Akira Amano changing genres due to low sales anymore. And to that, I have one thing to say. People, believe what you want. Yeah, I know I just spent a whole video going over why I think the whole it was planned theory was dumb. But at the end of the day, we don't know 100%. I don't know 100% if it was or wasn't. Maybe it was all planned. Maybe me and others who believe it wasn't really do lack reading comprehension. Or maybe it wasn't planned. And maybe the people who think it was are just letting their love for the author cloud their common sense. Until we get a confirmed answer from Akira Amano herself, or maybe even some of her editors, we'll never truly know. So, believe whichever theory you want. We don't have to make it where it's like, oh, no one should believe it. No, believe which one, you know? Believe that she planned it, or believe that she didn't plan it. But anyway, thank you for getting this far and watching. I was kind of hoping this would have been a shorter video to make. But yeah, do you think Akira Amano planned everything out? Do you think she just winged it after switching genres, you know? Or have an entirely different theory, you know? Disagree or agree with some of the things I said? You know, let me know. I'm very curious, you know? Comment down, you know, your answers to any of those questions. And I'll see you later. All right, bye.